Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Transmitting speech at a distance. Electronic equipment that converts sound into electrical signals that can be transmitted over distances and then converts received signals back into sounds. I talked to him on the telephone. Transmitting speech at a distance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. Often plural, systems used in transmitting messages over a distance electronically. Often plural, systems used in transmitting messages over a distance electronically. Often plural, the branch of electrical engineering concerned with the technology of electronic communication at a distance. A telephone connection. He placed a phone call to London. A telephone connection. A computerized system for answering and routing telephone calls. Telephone messages can be recorded and stored and relayed. A computerized system for answering and routing telephone calls. Telephone messages can be recorded and stored and relayed. Lets you transfer your incoming calls to any telephone that you can dial direct. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase. The call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of a loan. Give the calls to the dancers for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The 1C conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge. Somebody, to make good on a statement. Charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. Indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. Order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal to in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports, the decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. A way of letting you know that someone else is calling when you are using your telephone. Pay a brief visit. Cause to be returned. Demand payment of a loan. Make a phone call. Call in to a radio station. Summon to a particular activity or employment. Summon to enter. Take a player out of a game in order to exchange for another player. Recall knowledge from memory. Have a recollection. Call up memories. Bring forward for consideration. Call to arms. Of military personnel. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. Cause to become available for use, either literally or figuratively. An order to report for military duty. Call up by using a cellular phone. If the train is late, I will cell phone you. A disc on a telephone that is rotated a fixed distance for each number called. Choose by means of a dial. Dial a telephone number. Operate a dial to select a telephone number. You must take the receiver off the hook before you dial. The circular graduated indicator on various measuring instruments. The control on a radio or television set that is used for tuning. The face of a timepiece, graduated to show the hours. Be persistent, refuse to stop. Hold the phone line open. Please hang on while I get your folder. Fix to. Attach. Be persistent, refuse to stop. Hold firmly. Hold the phone line open. Retain possession of. Stop and wait, as if awaiting further instructions or developments. Hold the phone line open. Hold the line on prices. Keep the price of something constant. Phonetics, an individual sound unit of speech without concern as to whether or not it is a phoneme of some language. Electronic equipment that converts sound into electrical signals that can be transmitted over distances and then converts received signals back into sounds. I talked to him on the telephone. Electroacoustic transducer for converting electric signals into sounds. It is held over or inserted into the ear. It was not the typing but the earphones that she disliked. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. The sound of a bell ringing. The distinctive ring of the church bell. Ring or echo with sound. Extend on all sides of simultaneously, encircle. Make bells ring, often for the purposes of musical edification. My uncle rings every Sunday at the local church. A toroidal shape. A ring of ships in the harbor. Chemistry. A chain of atoms in a molecule that forms a closed loop. Attach a ring to the foot of, in order to identify. Ring birds. An association of criminals. A rigid circular band of metal or wood or other material used for holding or fastening or hanging or pulling. Sound loudly and sonorously. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. Jewelry consisting of a circlet of precious metal, often set with jewels, worn on the finger. She had rings on every finger. A strip of material attached to the leg of a bird to identify it, as in studies of bird migration. A characteristic sound. It has the ring of sincerity. A platform usually marked off by ropes in which contestants box or wrestle.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.